did it earlier than usual, guys. I really wanted to live stream today, but then something happened at the last minute. So I'm doing it now so that I can still do it, you know? Like, I don't have to completely postpone it. Maybe the regulars won't show up. Maybe some new people will show up, and then they'll let me know what time they're available. Hey, Kevin! Dang, you must be at a rock concert if you're shouting that loud. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. What's going on? Uh, I am going to both Comic Con and Catholic Creators Conference this month. So I am beyond excited about that. I also picked up a new game called Duck Side of the Moon. It's basically, how do I describe it? Like Breath of the Wild / Subnautica, but in space. Like, I haven't played much of Subnautica, but I've watched people play it, and it's like kind of like that, because you're in space, so you like can float around completely freely in 3D space, and you like gather minerals to craft things, but then you can only carry so many minerals before you have to go back to your ship. I like it a lot, even if I can tell that they really, really, really had to stretch it to make it work on the Switch, because it feels like the kind of game that was designed with a mouse in mind. Astroneer? No, I'm talking about Duck Side of the Moon. Honestly, Tyler, I'm glad you showed up, because I was actually thinking of you while I was playing it, because one of the things that I think you'll like the most about it is that the story is optional. Like, you have the option to like read the character's journal and see like the backstory of everything, but if you don't want to, you don't have to. Like, there's very, very minimal reading, but like most of it is just like, hey, go that way to do a quest. Yes, you were literally the first person that popped into my head. But welcome in, Tyler. Welcome in, Kevin. Either of you guys got any super great news? What was I gonna say? Tyler, I don't know if you were here for the whole thing, but I am going to both Comic-Con and Catholic Creator Conference by the end of the month. So expect some super great stories. They do have the option for me to film in a professional studio at the Creator Conference. I don't know if I'm going to take it up on that, but if you guys have any suggestions for videos that I should make that you think would be better suited to that instead of my usual setup, please let me know. Oh yeah, I'll try it, but again, I have to think, what am I going to do in the professional studio? Like, I want to really make sure that I maximize my time there. Oh, okay. Well, hey, thanks for stopping by to say hello. And hey, if you pick up Duck Side of the Moon, I hope you really enjoy it. But thanks a bunch, Tyler. It was great having you. Will I be live streaming? So how it works is that I'm only going as a guest. Thank you, Tyler. Glad to hear it. I'm just going to be one of the participants, just like everyone else. I'm not going to have like a booth or anything like that. But I do plan on taking lots of pictures, because it's going to be at Franciscan University of Steubenville, which you may remember was the place where I went in high school for a conference that ended up convincing me to talk to more people about God. So you could technically say it was the unofficial start of this channel, even if it took me until 2013 to actually upload. But yeah, I'll want to obviously like go to all the places where the iconic events happened and be like, this is where we sat for lunch, and this is where I met the Hill Girl, and I'm gonna try to get pictures of people that know me from my channel, because I know at least 2 people that have been in these live streams will be there. I know that for a fact. And I think the guy who ran it hinted that there would be at least 2 other people there that would know me as a creator, but just they haven't met me. So I'm going to be going in mostly as a stranger, but that's kind of the point. Based on what the organizer was telling me, like apparently he doesn't want it to be like a fan meetup like how Comic-Con is. He wants it to be like kind of more of a fellowship opportunity. Yeah, yeah, it's a bit of a far drive as well. Wait, you have something that you create on? Like, do you have a channel or an Instagram or anything like that, Kevin? Because if you make stuff that I really like, maybe I'll check it out. But yeah, Comic Con. Were you here at the last live stream where I mentioned who was going to be there? Because I don't feel like repeating myself, but there was one guest that no YouTube channel. Oh well. Yes, you were here. Okay, yeah. So I'm gonna keep double checking as the date comes closer. But there's a lot of cool people coming. Hello, Noah. Glad you could come in. Any big news? Anything you're looking forward to? I guess this must not be a bad time to stream because I've already gotten 3 people here who are semi-regulars. Kevin's like the regular of all time. And then if Lodo comes in, then it'll really be something else. Noah, were you here? Oh, good. Glad you could make it off of work. Hopefully, it wasn't detrimental for your financial situation. Well, I'm gonna try really hard to keep it between 5 and 7, but I'm gonna announce this right now. So write it down if you have a bad attention span. If you guys want me to live stream at a different time so that you can regularly show up, please, please, please let me know. Either in a comment or in this live stream, one way or another. You have a newborn. Oh, I see. Gotcha. Well, best of wishes for that and congratulations. What are my thoughts on the Star Fox game? Oh, I am so excited because I really liked the both of the Star Fox games on the Super Nintendo. I have reviews of both of them, by the way. And I generally don't like shooters, but there's something about Star Fox that I think it's because it's what you would call an on-rails shooter. And also, like, how do I describe it? Maybe because the reticle is so generous. Like, I think part of it is like a homing beacon type of attack, but I personally am loving the realistic art direction. Now, to be fair, I have not watched the whole direct. I've only seen bits and pieces of it because I didn't want to be spoiled. But I did listen to the music on Nintendo Today, and I was mind blown by it because I love orchestral music. I love that kind of grand, sweeping symphonic score, and it's just glorious. Just super, super excited for it. And again, not even a big fan of shooters, but it just looks like a good throwback to Star Fox on the Super Nintendo. You found it funny that Mario is more realistic in the movie than in the games. Yeah, that is pretty funny. Honestly, this looks like it might be the most realistic game that Nintendo's ever made. Like, this kind of gameplay, and again, I haven't seen too much of it, but from the little bit that I have seen, I would personally say that this is how realistic I'd like the next Zelda game to be. If they can make Link as realistic as they made James McCloud's jacket, then I'm all for it. Not a Star Fox fan? Well, actually, it's a Switch 2 game. So that's how they were able to make it look so good, is they're making it a Switch 2 exclusive. Now, to be fair, I've heard a couple of people complain that it's I think it's like the 4th time that Star Fox has been remade. Like, Star Fox 64 was a remake of the original Star Fox. Star Fox 64 3D was then a remake of that remake. And then Star Fox Zero was kind of this weird, like, hybrid remake. Like, it was both a remake and a sequel. So this is like a remake of the first. It's super confusing. But whatever the case, I'm looking forward to it. I have heard of Escape from Ever After. The problem is that there's no physical version at the moment, and it sounds like the kind of game that I would prefer to rent rather than buy. just because I tried Bug Fables, which I heard everyone say, like, oh yeah, this is like the best you're gonna get based on Paper Mario, and I was like, I didn't like Bug Fables all that much, if I'm being honest. So there's kind of this fear that Escape from Ever After will be like the next Bug Fables, and I'm kind of leery about that. Oh, that's cool. They showed this year. Yeah, no, I'm not surprised that they didn't show Star Fox Zero, because that almost killed the franchise by how much of a critical and commercial disaster it was. If I'm not mistaken, Nintendo is going to try to steer far, far away from Star Fox Zero going forward, but not entirely, because in Smash Brothers, they have a couple of references to Star Fox Zero. A statement saying that 2026 is the best year for Switch 2. Considering that the Switch 2 just came out in June of 2025, that might be a bit of a... It might be a bit too early to say. But in my opinion, I personally don't think there have been enough exclusives in 2026 at this point. But at the same time, I think I'm more excited about what's coming this year for Switch 2 than I was last year. Because this year, we're getting Danganronpa 2x2, which technically is also a Switch 1 game, but, still it has a Switch 2 version. Then we got the Final Fantasy VII Remake trilogy, which I've been waiting for who knows how long. I played the demo of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. It goes for 2 chapters. I know that doesn't sound like much, but Chapter 2 is basically just wandering around the open world, making sure you're leveled up enough. And it's like, dang, you get that much in a demo. That's just insane. Kind of reminds me of Dragon Quest XI, which in my opinion is the gold standard for demos. And then there's that secret game I'm not allowed to mention yet. It depends on what you like. Because for me personally, I am ecstatic about the upcoming library for Switch 2. But I realize that not all of it are exclusives. Like, some are also Switch 1 games. But at the same time, I don't care. I'm playing it on a Switch 2, and that's going to automatically make it better. So even if there's a Switch 1 game coming out, I'm still going to be happy about it. Nintendo Land's... You know what? I might have to agree with you if I was good at shooters. Because I was terrible at that Metroid minigame. Oh, good. Glad to hear you've got the Resident Evil games. Those really aren't my kind of thing, but they look incredible on a graphical level. It is kind of mind-blowing what they're able to do there. Oh, yeah. Donkey Kong Bonanza was my number 3 game of 2025. I was close to putting it at number 1, but it was mainly just, it's not a very accessible game that kind of took it down for me. Like, these other games that ended up overtaking it had so many options for, like, people with motion sickness, for one, or, like, turning down the sound effects if you just want to hear the music, and Donkey Kong Bonanza was, like, the absolute bare minimum. Secret game? Yeah, I've been in talks about a game that's coming out, but the developer has asked that I not reveal anything about it at this point. Probably shouldn't have even said that much, but whenever this game does come out, you can bet yours truly is gonna gush about it like crazy, because this is currently my number 1 game that I'm looking forward to. Which is saying a lot, because you would think it would be Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave, because Three Houses was my game of the year in 2019. But no, this game actually has me more excited. So, I'll keep you guys speculating. The only thing I'll say right now is, like I said, it's unannounced. So, don't expect it to be like something like the next 3D Mario or anything like that. I probably wouldn't be talking about it like this if it were, because ain't no way I'm working with Nintendo. Like, I think Nintendo is better than they used to be. That's a huge topic, but at the same time, they haven't shown remorse for their past. I did not 100% Bonanza. That, like, destroying for the sake of destroying, not really my kind of thing, but I did beat it, and I thought it had a spectacular finale. People are making Tomodachi Life a family-friendly game into... Oh, yeah. Well, if you end up watching my review, I wouldn't say it was 100% family-friendly, because I think I slipped in some Persona references in there, but there's nothing in there that's not safe for work, put it that way. But yeah, I do think that's a bit unfortunate that people can be super inappropriate with it. I'm going to turn off the fan real quick. This is super loud, so I'll be right back. There we go. Okay. Okay, what did I miss? Nintendo speaks to me for advice. Actually, they do. Obviously they don't know me personally, but I have made a couple of videos and mentioned in a couple of live streams that I have actually impacted game development a few times. One of which being that I voted for Banjo and Kazooie in the Smash ballot, and then Nintendo confirmed that it was number 2 worldwide of all the people voted. So if it hadn't been for me voting, we might not have gotten my favorite amiibo. So they listened to me in that respect. They also listened to me when I signed Arlo's petition to get Thousand Year Door remastered. And the remake of Thousand Year Door did what I can't honestly think of any other game that's really done this. It took a soundtrack that I hated with a passion, and it made it into a soundtrack so good that I would keep listening to the in-game soundtrack player over and over again, because I'm like, oh my gosh, how did they do that? They transformed this soundtrack. And the finale is just so much more immersive with the new sound design. I won't spoil it, but let's just say in the original game, there was a lot of juxtaposition with the happy-go-lucky battle music versus the atmosphere of what was going on around you. But now you're fully into it, and you're like, what am I walking into? And the final battle, even though I already knew what was going to happen, it was still so good. And then I ended up doing 2, not just 1, but 2 BP only runs on the remake, because I loved it so much. But a couple of the stuff that I've gotten my Mies to say in Tomodachi Life are, they've said that my nose looks like Charles Martinet's. I've gotten them to say that they found a 500-year-old Switch 2 buried in Denport. That's the name of my island. Favorite restaurant and favorite fast food. Technically, my favorite restaurant is Little Caesars. So pizza would be my favorite fast food, but I'm not sure if that's considered fast food. So I guess I'd have to go with Burger King if that's what you're looking for. But as far as my favorite place to get food from, it's Little Caesars. Guess what? Okay, let me see if I can guess. Nintendo just made an announcement that there's gonna be a new... Actually, no. Nintendo would have announced it by now. What else would I guess? You found out that there's a way that you can go to the Catholic Creators Conference. Or... you got good luck with that girl you were trying to pursue. Is that it? Because I think you mentioned that there was... Or maybe that was someone else that was asking me for romance advice. And those are my 3 guesses, because that's not much to go by. Well, yeah, I got it right. Oh, that's cool. All right, spill the beans, Kevin. Little Caesars is fast food. Nice to know. Why am I so thirsty today? I think it's because I went to the gym before I went to this, so maybe I didn't drink water enough while I was working out. But What was I going to say? Well, let's see what Kevin has to say. In my Skull Island Tamagotchi, I fell in love with Ramona from Scott Pilgrim. I haven't watched Scott Pilgrim in I think the last time I watched it was in 2010, I'd like to say. Thirst occurs when your body wants more water. Yeah. Yeah. I probably don't drink as much water as I should. But when I go to the gym, that's my motivation for working out, is I always treat myself to a special drink. Now today was a bit of an exception because I kind of just felt like it. Because that's how awesome the gym is near me. It's open 24 hours a day, and if I feel like going at the spur of the moment, I enjoy the atmosphere, and I enjoy the chairs, and I enjoy the people. It's just a fun place to be. This virus from that boat? What are you talking about? I don't really keep up with the news stories that much, but I figure that now that our nation has experienced a pandemic in recent memory, they're probably better equipped to know how to prevent another one. At least that's my guess. I haven't heard the news story. But I don't know much about politics, but I do think that Trump seems like the kind of guy that learns from experience. So he will probably, if it were to turn into a pandemic, he'd probably make it so that it ends a lot quicker than COVID did. That's just my guess. And again, I'm not the most well-informed on politics, so I may be completely off there. But yeah, typically the only news that I pay attention to is Nintendo news. I'm the type of person that the news gets so easily misconstrued. 5 dead, so oh dear, that stinks. Oof. Well, that is one of the main reasons why I started going to Comic-Con a lot more, actually, is I said I wanted to stop taking things for granted. It's called hantavirus. Did I pronounce that right? Well, whatever it's called. Like I said, hopefully we're more prepared for it than we were last time. But yeah, that's why I'm hoping to just make the most of Comic-Con, make the most of the Catholic Creators Conference, try to hang out with as many friends as possible. But you would think if people are suspecting it'll be another virus, you would think more people would be talking about it, but you two are the only people that I've heard about it from. So I don't know, is it from another country or something like that? Because maybe it's just not on the American news. Maybe it's just, somewhere else in the world they reported it. Not that I watch the American news much to begin with, because again, the news has turned into more of an opinion piece than a fact piece. The news used to just be whether you liked it or not, it happened. And now it's there's conservative news channels and then there's liberal news channels. And it's why not just report things as they are without trying to put your personal feelings into it? Right now, it was only on the cruise ship, and they've been quarantined in the Never. Oh my gosh, that's so sad. How do you get a virus on a cruise ship? Was someone smuggling it? I'm thinking of games oh, I better not say that in case my friend is watching this. But I have played a game that had a virus in it, and when I talked about that to my mom, she said oh my gosh, it's crazy that that game preceded COVID. It's just pointless, just waiting for Pope Leo's new encyclical. What is Pope Leo's encyclical all about? Or are you just speaking in general, just hey, that'd be cool if Pope Leo puts out a new encyclical? But I do think when it comes to encyclicals, I think you really have to be like, obviously the Pope is the mouthpiece of God when it comes to like infallible truth. Like, that can't be denied. But at the same time, people can still misconstrue the Pope's words. So that's why if I do see stuff about encyclicals, I always like make sure there's another source that's cross-referencing it with like say if the Pope is using a lot of metaphors, or say he's like in the case of Pope Francis, where English wasn't his first language, like was there something in the language he did speak that I'm not picking up on? But at least with Pope Leo, he's an American, so maybe that'll make it easier. The digital revolution. What's the digital revolution? I don't think I've heard about that. Rerum Novarium on the Industrial Revolution. Pope Leo set to release his encyclical on the digital revolution. So by digital revolution, do you mean the fact that like pretty much everything is online, and like we're getting into a more like streaming heavy time? Because I felt like this digital revolution happened a long time ago, like pretty much since the conception of the internet is what I would say. Oh, okay, gotcha. Well, I hope that people can realize the intrinsic value of in-person stuff. Because let me tell you, I've met some cool people through this YouTube channel. As I've mentioned on numerous occasions, two people who are my commenters I've now met up in person. Now, one of them I've met up in person with 4 different times. And there's something about being able to like actually hang out with someone in physical space that adds like a completely different feeling than just a phone call. And so I think if I had to guess what Pope Leo is getting at, it's use the digital revolution as a way to bolster in-person communication. Like, if you're going to say send someone a Facebook message, don't say what's up, say, hey, when can we hang out? Like, that's what I'm thinking is what he's getting at. It's just my guess, though. I can't say I'm the Pope. Pope Leo / Francis, the document is Dilexit whatever. They need to make their encyclicals in English one of these days. Already kind of commented on AI stuff a little. Okay. Yeah, I can't say I'm the biggest fan of AI, but when used in the right context, I guess like it can be helpful to certain people. Like, I think Tomodachi Life has a certain charm with its AI voice acting. Although I don't think it's technically considered AI, I think it's considered text-to-speech. But either way, when the original Tomodachi Life came out, it was quite the novelty. Oh, I see. Gotcha. Okay. Well, clarity is always nice. I'm the type of person that when I talk, I like to be as precise as possible, unless if like people are asking me personal questions, but for the most part, I get easily confused when people don't give me enough details, because I am I would say I'm definitely like this much a realist and this much an imaginative. Definitely the type of person that is more cognizant of reality than what ifs. Yeah, I did see that the Switch 2 got a price hike. And I was thinking I'm going to make a video talking about how grateful I am that I got the Switch 2 when I did. Because I got the bundle with Mario Kart World in it, which itself was $500, which, in retrospect, looking at what PlayStation and Xbox have done, it actually kind of feels like a bit of a steal. And the fact that you're getting so many Switch 1 games that are just readily available, And the fact that if you, well, I guess the argument could be made that yes, you have to like have the Switch 1 games to play them. But like I kind of see the Switch 2 as something akin to like when the new 3DS came out, where sure, Nintendo might have made like 2 exclusives on that. But like you still had so many 3DS games that were inherently enhanced by its existence. And so same thing with the Switch 2. It makes it better to play all these Switch 1 games. Pokemon Legends ZA. Well, I hope you had a good time with that game, because I typically am very, 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 very harsh on Pokemon games. I've never been a fan of the mainline games. The only mainline game I've actually beaten was Let's Go Pikachu, and I wish I could take back those hours of my life. But it made for some pretty entertaining skits in the review that I did. Yeah, the graphics do look pretty bad. Now, to be fair, graphics looking bad don't necessarily break a game for me. Because, like, Ocarina of Time is still the highest rated game on Metacritic. And that game is an eyesore. It's when companies have the budget to do better, but don't. That's when I get annoyed. Because, like, for example, the game I was playing earlier, Duck Side of the Moon, it's by no means a looker. But at the same time, I know that they probably don't have the budget to make it look on the level of Super Mario Galaxy. So I'm looking at it from more of a gameplay perspective than a graphical one. In this age of artificial intelligence, we cannot forget that poetry and love are necessary to save our humanity. No algorithm will ever be able to capture, for example, the nostalgia that all of... Gotcha. That is vague, but I think what it's saying is AI can only do so much, and we as humans have unique perspectives. No, that's okay. I understand. Whenever I'm on Twitch, I am like constantly breaking the character limit, because I tend to write in paragraphs when I chat to people. Mainly just because I like a sense of dialogue when I'm watching people. Paragraph 20 in the encyclical. Alright, I'll give it a try. Personally, though, I think the problem I personally have with AI is it's trying to replace humanity, as opposed to being a supplement to humanity. Like, I think, like, in the early days of AI, when you would use it for, like, say you're playing Smash Brothers, but you don't have people to play it with, you'd use AI to control the computer opponents. And that was great, because it wasn't replacing in-person interactions. It was an option. But now, you get AI summaries of things that might not necessarily be correct. But because it sounds enough like a human, people will take it as the gospel truth. And from what I've heard, they've even gotten the technology to make things make realistic enough looking. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but I'm not a big fan of AI. Our technology and economy should be used to serve humanity. Yes, exactly. Like the saying, mankind, or the Sabbath was made for mankind, not man for the Sabbath. Yeah, no, I get it. I would certainly... I would want to see the value in a person's individualism as opposed to a machine trying to make blanket claims on everything. Because I think if you hypothetically made a YouTube video with AI, if two people were to program the AI to do the same thing, it would probably just be an identical video. But if you get two people working on their own, it's going to be completely different because our perspectives are so unique. Like, I don't expect when I make my reviews that I'm going to convince every single person in the world to try Zero Escape. I realize it's not for everyone. But I hope that the people that it is for can learn from my perspectives and say, wait, what? Zero Escape exists? Now I gotta try it. Admittedly, I haven't reviewed a Zero Escape game in about 10 years now. But boy, can you bet I'm gonna go hog wild if they ever put it on Switch or Switch 2. But I think that's what people like about my videos, is that they're personal. They are my experiences, my perspectives, and I'm just sharing my perspectives in hopes that maybe someone will like them. And as I just said, from one of my subscribers mentioned that she doesn't like video games, but she watches my video game reviews anyway, which I didn't even know until this morning, so I felt super honored by hearing that. And so I said, well, I appreciate you watching my videos, and I hope that you can enjoy other aspects of them, like the graphics or the music. Because that's one thing I try really hard to do when I do video game reviews, is I really want people to be able to hear the music. But then you also might have noticed that I always put Paul's epic theme in there. And there's that personal aspect to it. Same thing with Tomodachi Life. Like, literally 100% of that review was just me saying, I want people to know what I like. I want them to know what goes through my head. And I want them to just feel like they're getting to know me through this game. But it's not going to replace talking to me. Sure, you might see that there's a character named Astora, and I created that character of Astora. It's not based on any pre-existing material. It's 100% me. But it doesn't replace talking to me, because people can say, ooh, that's what Astora is like in the game, but if I want to know more about her, I have to talk to Paul about it, and then he'll tell me more about Astora. And then I'll get a bit of insight into how his brain works. So maybe if AI were used in that respect, where it's like what people do in Tomodachi Life, they might like make a me of their favorite character and then show that me to a friend, and then that fosters genuine in-person human communication. I think I'm talking in circles at this point, but I think you guys get what I'm trying to say. That being said, I would love it. I would absolutely love it if I could like bring my Switch 2 to someone else who has Tomodachi Life and be able to like exchange me's. I think that would be super fun. Happy Friday, Paul. Oh, thank you, Susie. Hey, glad you could make it in. Got any big news or things you're looking forward to? I don't know if you were here when I mentioned this, but I actually am going to both Comic-Con and the Catholic Creators Conference this month. So stay tuned for probably a vlog, lots of pictures, lots of nostalgia. I am the type of person that I get a dopamine rush from reliving the past, especially if it's the good past. So I'm just going to warn you guys right now. If you're watching the vlog of Steubenville, the Catholic Creators Conference at Steubenville, expect there to be a lot of, oh, the shade of grass is the same as it was back when I first went to it as a teenager, and that's where we ate, and the food was actually halfway decent this time around. It's going to be a lot of between here and then type of language. And I know that type of language isn't for everyone. I just wanted to warn you all right now. That's how I talk. People, even before I had a YouTube channel, people would say I described the carpet more than I would the actual event I went on. Things are good here. Glad to hear it, Susie. So glad to hear that. I was curious, Susie, do you play any video games? Because I wanted to make sure that, if you did, I was curious what your thoughts were on Tomodachi Life and Star Fox, because those are like the big two that we've been talking about here. And if you're not into video games, then what are you into? Because I know you're into Myers-Briggs, but I don't think you've mentioned too much else about yourself. So I'm curious. Actually, for that matter, I want to know that about all of you guys. Are there anything that any of you like besides video games and Catholicism? As for me, I know I don't talk about much of my interests apart from those two subjects, but I do like typology. I like Harry Potter quite a lot. I like going to the gym, taking walks, swimming, not a gamer, fitness, art, and other creative INFP stuff. You know, I haven't actually been around too many INFPs that are in the creative subtype. Most of them are, I would say, like the harmonizing subtype, so like the ones that want everyone to get along and want things to run efficiently because their extroverted thinking is developed enough. I have a friend of mine who is an INFP, and whenever I'm around her, I call her Miss ESTJ, because she can be bossy when things aren't running the exact way that she wants, which is like, oh boy, is this girl outcome driven. INFJ? Okay. You know, most of my best friends are INFJs. And usually I find that the biggest conflict between our two types is usually it's really hard for each other to tell what we're trying to say. Like, a lot of times they will hint at things without outright saying it, and my brain just does not pick up on all that subtext. But then I will give a whole bunch of details, and then they'll say, yeah, I didn't really need all those details. I could have figured it out for myself. But then they might misconstrue my intentions, because apparently I've heard that reading intentions is more of an NP thing than an NJ. Like NJs see what will happen, but NPs see okay, are there consequences to this? You don't like when people speak underneath their words? I'm not sure what that means. Would you care to give an example? Do you mean hinting or talking around the subject? Because I'm the type of person that says unless you're getting into personal details, then I would say if a person asks you a personal question, be vague if you don't want to answer it. But if I say hey, when are you free? And someone says next week, I'll be yeah, that's not enough to go by. I need more than that. I need an exact date and an exact time. But yeah, no, INFJs, I feel we have, yes, we have a completely opposite function stack, which means we operate on completely different wavelengths. But when we do finally find a way to communicate with each other, they usually become my absolute best friends. In fact, I'm thinking about who my best friends are right now, and pretty much all of them are INFJs or ENFPs. As far as INFPs, it depends. It really depends on if they've developed their perceiving functions, the ones that are just driven by introverted feeling and just sheer, it's got to be this way, I can be a bit annoyed by. But when they're more willing to just be laid back and hear people out, then I tend to get along with them great. I find that INFPs, I usually can understand what they're trying to say really well. It's just that sometimes like the conclusions we reach are different. But it's like at least I understand where you're coming from and why you reach that conclusion. I just might not agree with it. Probably trending towards the harmonizing. Okay, so we probably would get along very well then. An SJ home. Oh man. I wish I grew up in an SJ home, but alas, I'm pretty sure everyone in my house is either an SP or an NJ. So I'm pretty much the only one in my house who's like an addict for familiarity. Like pretty much everyone in my house is all about like scenic beauty. I would say is like one thing that we had all everyone except for me have in common. Like don't get me wrong, I like beautiful scenery here and there, but I tend to keep it to myself. Like if I see a beautiful tree, I might like look at it for like a couple of seconds and then I'd be like, "Oh yeah, that was beautiful," and then move on. Typically, if I'm going to be like observing something that's aesthetically pleasing, I'm going to like it more if it's familiar than if it's novel. And I think my family is the other way around. I'm not trying to say one of us is better than the other because I think like the way I talk, they tend to think I'm criticizing them. But really what it is just, I'm just like, how the heck can you guys sit in one spot for 15 minutes looking at like a cloud? When me, I'm just like, yeah, I saw that cloud already. Why do we have to sink it in, you know? You try to get along with everyone, don't have much difficulty doing so, but I'm thought of as weird due to religious expression. Oh no, all of us are sinners. I get that. I would say I wish I could get along with everyone, but there are certain types that just kind of get on my nerves a bit. I think I'm better at it than most ISTJs because, you know, with my Catholicism, it definitely inspires me to want to like see the good in everyone and to like try to wonder if maybe there's like trauma or something like that that might make a person be rude or inconsiderate. And I'm certainly guilty of speaking before feeling at times. But I guess like I'm prone to getting annoyed if people don't take into account others' irritability. As opposed, I don't even know how I'm wording this. Let's see what you guys are saying. It's hard for you to have a conversation without thinking about it in relation to something regarding philosophy and religion. Like at work, trying to interpret the handbook inevitably leads me to thinking about Bible exegesis. Okay. Yeah, my equivalent to that is it's hard for me to think about something without comparing it to the past. How do you experience introverted intuition? Ooh, I'd like to hear that too, because I have next to no introverted intuition. Although, I have heard an INFJ say that I have it more than I used to think. It's just that I always dismiss it. So that's why she can tell that it's in the demon. And the example that I gave her, that she said, yeah, that is introverted intuition. It's just... so what Susie means by that is that every type has what's called cognitive functions. And each person has 2 introverted and 2 extroverted cognitive functions. So INFJs, their dominant function would be introverted intuition. But the NP types would all have extroverted intuition. So Susie being an INFP would be more idea-driven, more like what ifs, what could happen. Usually like the lower down on the function stack, the more doom and gloom the what ifs are. So Susie's probably more of like the romanticizing the what ifs, like, ooh, what if I get $1 million tomorrow? Whereas for me, it'll be like, ooh, what if my house burns down? So she's asking, what does introverted intuition feel like? Which, from my understanding, is you collect data from like what. Again, it's my eighth function, so it's really hard to describe, but it's more forward thinking intuition. Like, okay, if these patterns persist, then I can guess that this outcome will play out this way. It's also been described as like extroverted intuition is like a spider web where it looks outward. It tries to think like, oh, this reminds me of that, which reminds me of that, which reminds me of that. Whereas introverted intuition is more like an onion. Like, okay, let's look into the deeper meaning of this. Let's see, okay, now that we know this, let's move on to this and let's move on to this. And then now I see the whole big picture of the whole thing. So even though you guys have 3 out of 4 letters in common, you actually don't share any cognitive functions. So like Susie and myself, because she and I share functions, we would have introverted feelings. That's all about like personal values, tend to like sympathize with people as opposed to empathizing. Whereas INFJs having extroverted feeling are going to be about like trying to create harmony between multiple points of view and like taking in people's emotions as their own. Hello, Jevel. What's popping? Good question. I don't actually know what that statement means. If it means what's going on, I'm going to both Comic-Con and Catholic Creators Conference this month. That's what's going on. And I got a new game called Duck Side of the Moon, which is basically like Subnautica in space, but without the survival aspect. Because as far as I'm aware, there's no way to get a game over. There's not even a way to get hurt. You think you have both the onion and spiderweb in a sense. Okay. Sometimes you get ENFJ. Okay. Mostly along terms of principles and deduction. So principles and deduction is introverted thinking, which, fits with the INFJ. So how introverted thinking works is it likes to look for logical consistencies in things. So like for me, an extroverted thinker, I would look at, okay, what is all the data telling me? What are the statistics? What are the facts? What just is it true? Is it not true? Don't really care. Just tell me if it is or isn't. Introverted thinking is, well, if this is true, then that equals this. And so they like to break it down by like, okay, does this work for me personally? So it can lead to postmodernism, in my opinion, but that's just because I don't value it. That's a hipster greeting? Okay. Well, I must not be a hipster then. Not really scandalized when it comes to corrupt religious officials because it fits the principles. I don't leave Peter because of... Okay, I think I get what you're saying. I think. But let's just say that if you use introverted thinking, you're more likely to want to figure out the logical principle behind why something is true, as opposed to wanting proof that it's true, like someone like me would. No, I used to get scandalized, but then I started to realize that there's nuance to life. Like maybe there's a reason why people are atheist, and maybe there's a reason why they're heretics. Maybe they could have just been badly informed. Maybe there just wasn't a good religious education. Maybe they were abused by the nuns in their school. Like there's so much that we don't know, and that's why Jesus would often like eat with tax collectors and sinners, because he wanted to get to know them on a personal level so that he could address them as individuals rather than as a collective. And that's why they say that Jesus was like the definition of a man of his time. Like if he were alive nowadays, he probably would have dressed like a stereotypical 30-year-old man. And he probably would have used a lot of memes and slang because he wanted to appeal to the people of his time period. We are officially in May. We're soon. Oh, yes. I hope we get release dates for Danganronpa 2x2. Speaking of which, Jevil, what are your thoughts on the new Star Fox game? I'm actually pretty excited about it. I never thought I'd see the day, but I think I'm going to like it. It's still possible for those people to be saved. Yes. I have read that because I did some certification training at the seminary when I was trying to be a youth minister. And there's like, they gave a statistical chart of like the religions that were most likely to be saved. And based on what I can tell, to try to put it in very, very, very simple terms, it really all depends on intent of belief. But we as humans have no way of telling what that intent is because we can't read a person's soul. The only thing we can do is try to present the truth and hope that that person is open to receiving it. Chart of what's, yeah, like it'll say like, okay, so like they'd say stuff like an Orthodox person is more likely to be saved than a Protestant, and this is like the statistical probability of an atheist. But again, that's just so complicated, and quite frankly, I don't even remember most of those statistics. But what I have learned is that in order to be saved, it really is a personal decision at the end of the day. And the church does teach that Jesus he knows how to reach out to people during the final judgment in a way that we can't comprehend. So for all we know, the worst of sinners in history may still have been saved because Jesus, he might have revealed something to them that said like, hey, this is why you're wrong. Would you like to repent? Like, we don't know. And that's why the church gives us these guidelines, like, go to confession. These are what a mortal sin is. This is what a venial sin is. Because we don't want to put God to the test. We don't want to say, well, God is just going to forgive me anyway, so I'll just go ahead and sin. Like, act as though we have all these restrictions, when in reality, God is not limited by the sacraments in the same way that we are. He very much transcends our understanding, but he uses the sacraments so that we can like get an idea of his salvation. You may be referring to like the sun and rays of light analogy. I don't actually know that analogy. You might have to repeat it. The likelihood of being saved is not something observable. All the church knows is that we have the ordinary means, which is under a promise and guaranteed so long as you remain faithful. But otherwise, if someone is invincibly ignorant of the truth, salvation is possible. So purposeful ignorance is, I think, the term you're looking for. Like, let's say, for example, an atheist denied that God existed. But let's say that at the end of time, or in like after the atheist dies, they show up and God is there, and God says, okay, let me educate you on what you missed, and let me look into, in ways that only I know, why you decided to be an atheist. Now, let me present to you what my glory is capable of doing in your life. This is what is called the divine mercy. And again, we don't really know the particulars of how that works. But I think the vast majority of atheists are actually ignorant, as opposed to generally being obstinate to the truth. Although, if the Pharisees are any indication, sometimes religious people are obstinate to the truth. Christ and the church is the Son. Yes, I would agree with that. Yes. The Catholic Church has the fullness of truth, but like Protestants, they believe in the Trinity. They believe that Jesus is the Messiah. They have the essentials, but then there are certain personal details that they leave out because they go by Bible alone, and even then, they base it off of their interpretation of what the Bible says. There's a way to get an atheist to believe in God using science. I've heard that too, actually. I just don't know it off the top of my head. The Catechism says that if someone is purposefully ignorant, yes, exactly, heart of heart, that actually adds to their guilt. Yes. Yes. I yeah, that makes perfect sense with what I've been learning. But intention is really all that is at play here. So I actually have to wrap this up in about 10 minutes. So I wanted to make sure that everyone still here has had a chance to feel included. So was there anything pressing that you guys wanted to say? Any like major questions you wanted answered? Because again, once it hits 5, which is like 8 minutes from now, I'm going to have to wrap it up. And my water's all out, so my voice is starting to get a bit dry. Well, I guess your voice can't get dry. You know what I mean. But hey, as a former, what was I going to say? I'm glad you were able to come to the faith. You know, it's never too late if you know the parable of the workers in the vineyard. Oh, hey, Lodo. Glad you've been lurking. Glad you could say hi. Hey, if there's something you want to say in 8 minutes, go for it. But don't let me get you in trouble because of work. If you're able to say more than a lurk by the time I wrap this up, I am curious what your thoughts are on the new Star Fox game, and if you haven't tried it out, just wanted to put it out there that 10 of the game's music tracks are on Nintendo Music. Just a last aside about that topic. For example, being orthodox is necessarily better, because if they're hard of heart, as opposed to invincibly ignorant, it's worse than if invincibly atheist. Now, I don't know what you mean by invincibly ignorant, because I've never heard that turn of phrase. But I do think that, hypothetically, I mean, I don't think I will, because of all the miraculous healings that have happened and all of the great stuff that have happened to me at Catholic events. But if, hypothetically, I were ever to not be a Catholic anymore, I would probably convert to Orthodoxy more than anything else. Invincible ignorance is in the Catechism. Basically, you are ignorant of the truth. So true ignorance is what the word would be. Okay, gotcha. No, yeah, that's what we would call the baptism of desire. Is a person may not know the truth, but if deep down inside he or she wants to believe the truth, God would consider that basically the equivalent of being a believer. It looks really good. You played 64 in the 3DS versions. I actually watched the opening cutscene where it shows like how James got betrayed, and it looks phenomenal. Like, I'm really hoping that there's a Zelda game in this art style, which, my brother and I have been talking about that ever since we played Twilight Princess. We just said, we want a Zelda game that has the general idea of what Twilight Princess was trying to go toward, but it was limited by the time it came out. But we want to perfect that art style, and no Zelda game besides Link's crossbow training has ever even tried. I mean, look at the Wii U tech demo. That game has by far the best looking Zelda game I've ever seen, and yet it's not real. It's just a tech demo. So what the heck? Yeah, like St. Justin Martyr said, Socrates was a Christian at heart. Well, I didn't mean to shut you up. I just have to get going in 5 minutes. But if you want to continue this conversation in like a comment, feel free to just continue saying more after this video is posted, and I'd be glad to continue this anytime you want. But yeah, I think C.S. Lewis talked about as much in the last battle. Hey, hogging the conversation is something that I encourage. Like, if people like when Jevel comes in here, he usually doesn't like to talk about religious stuff. Sometimes he'll be talking about like the newest game, and then like Susie will talk about Myers-Briggs, and then this person will talk about religion. From my perspective, it all coalesces, so I can like respond to everyone at the same time. It's really not a big deal. I used to have community guidelines that would say like, hey, don't don't feel bad about interrupting, but I deleted them because it turns out those are also for comments, and I didn't really want that. So I'll have to think of a way to make people feel like they should want to interrupt me. Because goodness knows I get tired from hearing the sound of my own voice for too long. That's one of the main reasons why it took me so long to be able to live stream for like more than an hour and a half. Is because my voice, I would get so exhausted hearing the sound of my own voice so much. That's why I don't talk to myself all that much. Wear headphones. Yeah, but then I talk louder, unfortunately. So it's one of those mindsets. All right. Well, I think I should probably say my goodbyes to everyone. Make sure everyone feels like they contributed something. So thank you, Noah. Thank you, Lodo. Thank you, Susie. Thank you, Jevel. Speaking of which, Jevel, keep me posted if you ever hear about. Oh, I completely missed something Jevel said here. Oh, that's weird. Never played a Star Fox game, but you wanted to try them. You only know Star Fox because of Smash since Melee. I would say I really like Star Fox on the Super Nintendo, and I really like Star Fox 2. If you're good at on-rail shooters, I think you'll love them. Yeah, thank you so much, Susie. I'm glad you could drop in. Thank you, Noah. Who else am I forgetting? Jevel. Oh, Kevin. Thank you, Kevin. And thank you, Tyler, for coming in. Tyler has a YouTube channel called Ty the One Up Guy, so in these remaining 2 minutes that I have, if you all really like listening to someone who likes Nintendo games almost as much, if not more than me, scroll through the chat, find his channel, click on the link. If you're too lazy to do that, I have a link to Tyler's channel in pretty much all of my modern videos ever since I got my latest live stream. In fact, there should be a link in this live stream once I post it. He is he's way more of a gameplay first, story later type of guy than me. So you'll definitely see a lot more of like platformers and simpler games. You won't see a whole lot of stuff like Fire Emblem because they're very story heavy games, but he is currently my favorite YouTuber that is uploading. So I hope that you will support him as much as possible. Hopefully, we'll flood his channel so that he can be as popular as me in terms of subscribers. But with that, I think we've just about reached the limit. Thank you all. I'm sorry if I forgot anyone's names, but you all have an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. And until the next time, remember to keep the faith, stay epic, and God bless. Bye.